Welcome to FabCon TV. This session, we are doing Leaders in Focus here with Amir Netz, who is a technical fellow at Microsoft and the CTO of Microsoft Fabric. Amir, thank you for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
The keynote was amazing. We're coming off of all the big announcements, but before we get into all the questions, tell us a little bit about what you do for folks that may not be aware.
So I'm a technical fellow at Microsoft, and it's something I've been doing for quite a few years. But I've been at Microsoft for almost 30 years now. Spent a lot of time in the business intelligence space. So many of you probably using Power BI. It's one of my babies at Microsoft.
Everybody loves Power BI.
And in the last few years, I'm the CTO of Fabric, which means that I'm driving a lot of the vision and the direction. We have thousands of people working on Fabric, and it's just phenomenal to see how the whole orchestra is playing a beautiful symphony here.
Excellent, amazing. And it's been fun watching your journey and the journey of Microsoft Fabric and Power BI as well. All right, and so for everyone watching online, and we've got folks in the audience today, I want to hear some energy from the live audience, but also for the folks watching on YouTube later on when we drop this, feel free to drop your comments down below if you've got things for the team. And we're going to go through a couple questions. My name is Adam Saxton, and let's get into it, all right?
Let's go.
All right, first question I've got for you, Amir. A lot of what we saw this week, so One Lake, unified experiences, databases in Fabric, point towards breaking down data silos. And so in your mind, are we actually ending data silos, or are we evolving them into something smarter?
No, we are actually ending data silos. Data silos often are created when different different teams are choosing certain products and architectures that creates technical barriers across sharing data between products and between teams. And I think that with One Lake, we are really reversing the trend. You know, we are allowing silos to come together to become unified. So the only silos we want to see is silos that are driven by permission, security rights on the data, rather than different platforms and bandwidth and different formats. And these are what characterize today the silos that we see, because the different implementations are done on different platforms, different products, different architectures, and it just puts the ability to share data and consolidate it to be so hard and so frictionful, and that's what breaks a lot of the data initiatives in many organizations.
Yeah, and what that enables is now, because we saw a lot of announcements where these things can be layered on top now that can all be empowered by it.
Exactly, because the idea here is that all the data in the organization is really painting the picture of what's happening in the real world.
Right.
Okay? It's basically, this is the digital footprint of the actual activities that are done in the business. And the ability to see all the data together means that you can see the entire picture of the business together. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to paint the entire picture, and not just the data, but also the meaning of the data all together in One Lake.
And also limiting the copies of the copies of the copies, right?
And that's, the copies of the copies of the copies are just like barnacles on the ship, It just makes everything slower, it creates friction, it's just the whole organization much less efficient, and it's just so much more effort is required to move the ship forward when you have all this accumulation of these copies upon copies that you have to keep them in sync and deal with the situation when they're not in sync and all that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I love it. All right. You've been shaping the vision, as you mentioned, for a long time. But stepping back, was there anything this week that surprised you, or maybe sparked some things for the future, talking to customers or just at the event itself?
Yeah, so I think that when we look at the conversation I'm having with customers, and it's not like I'm having so many conversations with customers, it's very obvious that everybody knows that something big is happening with AI.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find their footing and say, where are we going with this? How is our organization going to look like? How is our job going to look like in the future? How do we integrate AI into the processes? And the changes we're seeing in the world of AI are so fast. Yeah. It's breathtaking. It's neck breaking. A lot of people feel overwhelmed with that. And even putting the mental framework in our head of what does it really mean having all this AI in the organization is really challenging for a lot of customers, for a lot of people. And so for me, it's just seeing so many of our customers struggling with this, and offering, I think, a logical framework of how to think about it is something I think that is a big takeaway. It's very, very hard to think about data and the world of data without thinking about it, how it is a layer in the AI empowerment of the organization. And I think that's, and I think that for a while, there was like these two almost separate motion, like what do we do in the world of data and what is happening in the world of AI. It cannot be done this way. The data is the foundation to what the AI knows.
So, and with that, on the topic of AI, because the other challenge with it is it's evolving so fast. How do you keep up with it?
You know what? It's kind of fascinating.
I struggle, so I'm like,
because everything
curious.
is. I spend hours on YouTube at the AI news.
Oh.
You know, there's no other way. Like where do I?
Yeah.
It's not like you can have a monthly magazine will not work.
No.
You know, it's you have to be every day.
Yep.
Seems like new things are happening, and you just have to be on top of it.
Yep.
And you just have to spend the time and figure out what's going on. Like in a short span of 12 months, we moved from just the world of chatbots to the world of virtually autonomous agents that are really behaving like another sentient being. It's fascinating, and I have installed OpenClaw in my home on a PC, and that I gave the thing. I gave it a name. His name is Mickey, and he has email, and it has a chat, and it has a phone number,
Nice.
and it has a browser. And it's really operating like my personal assistant for home.
Oh.
It's just sitting remote, but I text it from my friend's home, and it knows about my friends, it knows about my family, it knows about everything. It's just amazing to see how it's really like having another family member who is doing work for me.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love
Yeah.
it. All right. Okay. With everything we saw in the keynote yesterday and all the announcements, so data agents, operation agents, Fabric IQ is a big deal, Microsoft IQ beyond that. It feels like we're shifting from tools we use to systems that work alongside of us. So in your mind, are we entering an era where data platforms become, like what you said, it's a person that helps you with things? So are these things going to become teammates alongside of us?
So I think at the end of the day, yes, we are moving to a world of hybrid organizations where you're going to have human employees working side by side with digital employees. And in fact, this is I think the framework that we have to kind of adopt in terms of how we think about the future, because the technology will shift, the technology will change. But what is the end state that we're going to end up with? And it is this hybrid organization. Yeah. You are going to have, and as we add these digital employees to the organization, we have to think about what did we build over the last 2 centuries since the Industrial Revolution? That, before the Industrial Revolution, the whole notion of employee was very, very limited. But suddenly you had these factories with employing thousands of people, and we started building frameworks. And so what does it mean to employ thousands of people? And the same framework that we have, like the notion of an org chart, that so everybody reports to somebody else. Yeah. And that your manager gives you feedback and guides you on your way. There's HR function. That makes sure that there's a central management of all the employees. There is a security function that makes sure that employees are not doing things that they're not supposed to be doing.
Right.
Right? All these things, the handbooks, the standard operating procedures, the policies, all of that we apply to employees. What is the equivalent that we need to have in order to employ those agents? We have to reimagine the frameworks that work for humans. What are the frameworks that are going to work for employees, for agents? So we have HR, human resources. We're going to have AR, agent resources, right? That applying the same framework but just adjusted for these digital employees that we're going to have. So when you start thinking about this way, about we're building this hybrid organization, then this is really the forest, and everything else is just trees.
Right.
And the trees will change, the forest will stay.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep. And one thing I know my team, we've got a new mantra now too. If we have to do anything a second time, we go to create an agent. And having all that data in one lake also in the context, like that just enables you to go do that for the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It'd be amazing. All right. So yesterday we heard in one of Patrick's demos, this idea of end to end, and we heard that beyond that too for everything. So from CI/CD to governance, data estates, applications. From your perspective, what does true end to end actually mean now in Fabric, and what's still missing?
Wow, Fabric is evolving very fast, and I think as we go and employ more and more agents in building Fabric, and just to be very clear, Microsoft itself is going through the agentic transformation. It's not just like say we're selling it to somebody else, but we're eating our own dog food on this one.
I was told by Kim Manna, she's like, look, I can't give you a head count, but I can give you as many agents as you want.
Exactly. And we're learning as we go along because things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, so we're thinking about all the, what's missing. And there are things missing. Like Fabric is a product that's constantly being evolved.
Well, as things evolve too, you figure out new things to add.
And I think that what customers, when we hear customers say, we love everything you guys are doing, but we'd like to see more done on policies, more done on security.
Okay.
And I think that's where you'll see continuous innovation. How do we control who can do what in the system? And now we're getting to the control of what can an agent do in the system, what can an agent not do in the system. So the whole notion of security, governance, trust, observability, big part. Observability is going to come in. We really need to know what the agents are doing. Super, super important. As much as we need to know what our employees are doing.
Right.
Human employees are doing.
Well, and also in this age of AI, I think businesses, they want that trust factor, right? They want to know that they can rely on what's there and that it's, it's secure.
And the more things are moving fast, the harder it is to feel secured, and you want to have more tools.
Because it's rapid, so they need to wait, I need to understand this before we go into it.
Exactly. It just moves so fast, and things that are moving fast takes time to adjust. And when you don't have the time to adjust, then you feel you don't have the confidence. You feel that you need more tools to establish that trust.
Yeah. And going back to something you said before on the trust factor too, I think the more folks take time to maybe watch some YouTube videos to keep up to date and also use it in your day-to-day and understand what it's working with, how it's responding, that just helps you to understand it more so you can trust.
Absolutely. I think for me, I got so many light bulbs turning on in my head the moment I started doing my own vibe coding, building my own my own applications. Because then you say, oh my God, now I get it. Now I get it.
Yeah, we've done that on our team too. And even as we help build demos, like the ability for even demos in the keynote or whatever to build those quicker, just using GitHub Copilot or something like that, tied into Fabric, it's amazing. It's incredible. All right. So for customers in the audience and watching this online, especially for those coming from traditional BI, data warehousing, or SQL Server, what's the biggest mindset shift they need to make to really take advantage of Fabric?
I think that they have to start thinking, I think that we're shifting the thinking around from I'm building a database, or I'm building a report or a semantic model I'm building the foundations for all my data assets in the organization to really paint the end-to-end picture of what's going on in my business.
Yeah.
And so really that data estate unification is the first phase. In the world of BI, in the world of databases, it was always about, I need to build these reports. I need to build this one application. We never thought about the data as a whole. We always saw one element at a time, one application at a time, one database at a time. We never said, how do we paint the entire picture of the data of the organization that will effectively reflect what's happening in our organization, what's happening in the business. So that is the number one mind shift you have to have, is that we are talking about all the data. We're not talking about an application, a report, it's becoming a core infrastructure that we have to think about.
Yep.
One of the things that I like to think about is, to frame in my head, I say, what Entra is for identity, one leg should be for data. It should be the fundamental tier that you can build so many things on top of. You don't, so that's kind of the...
And even if that's outside of Fabric, right?
Even if it's outside of Fabric, it's for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's the beauty of Fabric. Everything is open. The data is in open format. The APIs are open. So we really give you this facility to create a central place for all your data in which you can build so many applications on top of. And that's the other thing. Typically, in the old days, we would think a database is for one application. Now we
Right.
think the data tier is for all the applications.
Well, that was the data silos, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's the data silos. So that's I think the first mind shift you have to have.
Nice.
The second one is that it's really start thinking about not the data by itself as the raw data, but really the meaning of the data, what we call the semantics. And we have, both humans and AI needs explanations. If I took even the smartest person that just graduated from MIT with the PhD in computer science, and I threw them on top of one lake with tens of thousands of tables and millions of columns and asked them, hey, here's a business problem, go run a query to give me the answer on that one. They will struggle. They will not understand which table does
Right.
what and what is the meaning of the columns. And having to layer semantics, which used to be something that we only did for BI.
Yeah.
And now we say it's not just for BI.
They just want to answer the problem. They don't want to try to decipher all the data.
It's very hard, and
Right.
you can make mistakes. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's really, really easy to make mistakes if you have to try to figure out reverse engineering. What does this table mean, and when should I use it? And sometimes the table looks so similar to each other, but they're really not the
Right.
same. So you really have to start layering the semantics. Semantic used to be something that only business intelligence used
Right.
to have. And now you say, wow, when we have all these agents, the agents need to understand it, and they need to understand it not just to create reports, but to really reason and operate in every domain, in the operational domain, in the analytics, in the translytics, in everything that we do. So layering semantics move from being something that is optional, a little bit like the descriptions that we should have given the table,
Yeah.
description that we should have given to
Right.
column and never did. It's suddenly you say, wow, it's actually a fundamental tier of the data that you just have to populate.
Yep.
So that's the other thing that we have to think about. And really also the separation that used to be between the world of operations, like operational databases, and the world of analytics, data warehouses, BI. It used to be like two hard disciplines and reporting to different parts of the organizations. And we think that this element, this other kind of silo of operations versus analytics is breaking down completely.
Yes.
And you cannot separate the two.
Because you need those answers right away.
You need to be able to reason very, very quickly, and the reasoning has to apply back to the operations very, very quickly.
Right.
So the loops
Over the scale of data.
So the loops used to be taking months from things happening to people analyzing, realizing, having a recommendation, and applying it back.
Yep.
So it took months until the entire loop was completed because it needed human analysis and some meetings between people to decide what actions to take, and then send the right specs and send it to developers to change operational systems. So think about how long the feedback loop took.
Is that what we call the good old days?
And now we really want to have systems that react in near real time.
Right.
From the moment we see that something is off track to the moment the system is amended to deal with that in the future.
Yeah.
And can we do it in minutes rather than months?
Right.
That's really the scales that we want to see the improvement changing.
Bananas. Oh,
Yes.
crazy. All right. So let me get my one more question. If there's one thing you want every attendee at the conference and those watching online to walk away with from FabCon and SQLCon this year, what would it be?
I think that first of all, the world is changing. It's changing fast, and if you're not on top of things, you'll be left behind.
You're behind.
You'll be left behind. You'll be left behind. I think we are moving to a world where we have to find how to optimize our organization and ourselves with the help of the agents. Like the agents, I'm looking at the agents as the equivalent of the original Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Think about what happened in the Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, labor was based on muscle power, either human muscle power, maybe animal muscle power, but it was basically, that's as much as we could get. And suddenly the machines came in, and you had power amplifier of the muscle power, because you could just have, whether it was the steering wheel or it was the levers,
Yep.
and suddenly you get 1,000 times more muscle power because you have this multiplier of the machine.
Right.
And what the agent does is doing the same thing, but with brain power. The agents are the brain power multipliers. And the question is, how can you really go and instead of, and apply the power of agents to make yourself so much more productive.
Right.
And really, I'm looking at it internally at Microsoft, and I think to myself, the skills that we hired employees, developers, engineers for the last 40 years, I interviewed probably hundreds, thousands of candidates by giving them a coding problem. They went to the whiteboard and wrote and coded the function or the algorithm, and we judged them on how well they could code. And now I'm saying, I don't know if that's a skill that I would appreciate in the future.
Yeah.
The skill that I would appreciate in the future is how many agents can you activate at the same time that will write the code for you?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see the developer or the engineer becoming, instead of the musician that plays the violin, I want to see them the conductor in the orchestra, where they have a whole set of agents that are actually playing the tools.
Yeah.
And the instruments. And so that's, I think, that the revolution I think we all have to take, that is, if you don't use the AI, you don't use the agents as your brain multiplier, think about how can I do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times more than I can do today, then you will be left behind.
Yep. And it's all about scaling, right?
Yes.
Everything's scaling. All right. So I asked a lot of questions. I want to take a few minutes now. If we've got questions in the audience, we're open to that. Maybe raise a hand. We got one in the front. So state your name first, and then.
Hi, Jeffrey Kozera, Bank of Canada. But this is a simple question. You mentioned YouTube. Obviously, that's a great way to consume information. I have to ask, what are your favorite channels to consume that information?
Oh wow! Wow! I have the one of the main channels I'm watching is Matthew Bremer. I don't remember his last name, but he has almost like a daily show. He's covering all the news. That's one. But frankly, the YouTube algorithm is doing a pretty good job of just floating the best ones to me. So I get a lot of the news this way. A lot of it I get on X as well. Because a lot of tweets and the summaries of the latest innovations, it's everywhere. Like it's a flood of information, and you just have to ride the wave. Don't be swallowed by the wave. Okay, that's what you have to do.
So, and I'd say also, like from my end, I'm subscribed to probably 800 to 900 channels, but I just rely on the recommended videos. It just knows what I'm looking at over time. So it's. All right.
Time for one more
One
question.
more? Anyone? We've got one over here. So please state your name and.
Thank you. My name is Dave, and I've been a big admirer for both of you.
Thank you.
Been following up for last 15, 20 years since Power BI was Pivot Viewer. 2 features I'm really looking forward to, which is data quality services and MDS, which was there.
Deep cut.
It's a little bit deep. Any insights in the roadmap on that?
Okay.
It's coming.
Okay.
As much as I'm going to say, it's coming.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Next week?
Not next week, but it's coming. Okay, it's in the works. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. So Amir, any final words from your end?
I'm really looking, first of all, I'm so energized with everything that's happening here in the conference. It is, as we said, the second largest conference of Microsoft for a product that is 2 years old. Quite incredible.
Insane amazing.
It's
insane amazing.
And getting so much energy from the community. The community is so passionate, and seeing the amazing implementations in real life at scale of Fabric is so energizing. And really looking forward for 10,000 next year. Okay, so let's see.
Yeah, we'll try. All right. So for everyone here in the audience, thank you so much for being here. For those watching online, thank you so much. And online, be sure to drop comments down below. We would love to see what your questions are and try to answer those. And as always, thank you, Amir, for being here.
Thank
you for everyone being at FabCon. And we will see you in the next session.
Very good. Thank you.
What a conversation. Everything you've been watching here was captured live at FabCon and SQLCon in Atlanta, from the interviews to the demos to the community insights that make these events so special. If you're into Microsoft Fabric, SQL, and the future of data, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And speaking of next, we're taking this show to Barcelona. FabCon and SQLCon Barcelona are happening this September 2026, and it's going to be packed with big announcements, deep technical sessions, and one amazing global data community. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to register and use code FABTV to save €200 off your ticket. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and we'll see you in the next one.